In programming, we use tools to translate our code into something a computer can understand. This is where the interpreter comes in for Python. The Python interpreter is like a translator that reads your Python code line by line, understands its meaning, and carries out the instructions right away. It's like having a conversation with the computer where you give it commands, and it does them immediately. In Python, the interpreter plays a crucial role in executing code. It takes the code you've written, parses it, and then translates it into machine-readable bytecode instructions, which are then executed by the Python Virtual Machine or PVM. You may have heard that some languages use interpreters and some use compilers. They both actually do the same job in the end, which is turning the code we wrote into a language the computer can understand. The key difference between an interpreter and a compiler is how they handle code execution. As mentioned earlier, the interpreter executes code line by line, translating each line into machine code and executing it immediately. This means that the interpreter processes the code dynamically at runtime. If there's an error in a particular line, the interpreter halts execution and reports the error, making debugging easier. However, this dynamic nature can sometimes lead to slower execution compared to compiled languages. A compiler, on the other hand, translates the entire source code into machine code before execution. This means that errors are typically reported after the entire code has been analyzed and the compilation process is completed. Once compiled, the resulting executable can be run multiple times without the need for recompilation, leading to potentially faster execution compared to interpreted languages. However, the compilation step adds an initial overhead. Let's consider a simple Python program that calculates the sum of two numbers. When you run this code, the Python interpreter reads each line, translates it into bytecode instructions, and executes them immediately. In this case, the interpreter calculates the sum of number 1 and number 2, and then prints the result. If an error occurs in the initial lines, the subsequent print command will not be executed. In contrast, if this were a compiled language like C++, you would need to compile the entire source code into machine code using a compiler before running it. This compiled executable could then be executed multiple times without needing to be recompiled. Also, if there is an error in any line of the code, the entire program will fail to execute. Understanding the role of the interpreter in Python is essential for writing and debugging Python code effectively.